Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'll declare the May Ordinary Council meeting open at 6:02. Kaya Marman, Kaya Yoga, Kaya Bridie, Yananuk, Nalak Kadij Winjialak Nini, Nalak Kadij Nija, Buja Bal, Wajak Nunga, Buja Nalak Nini, Kura, Nijie Burawan. The town of Bassendean acknowledges the Wajak people of the Noongar Nation as the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to elders, past and present, and acknowledge their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the region. Councillors, declaration of civic duty. Declaration is made in good faith, and that councillors will duly, faithfully and honestly and with integrity fulfil the duties of the office for all the people of the town of Bassendean according to the best of your judgment and ability. Councillors, I believe, all have signed the declaration, so thank you very much. I have no announcements this evening. Attendances, apologies and applications for leave of absence. I believe the only apology is Director of Community in Place, Ms Michelle Brennard, is that correct? Okay. There are no other apologies. Councillors, do I have any applications for leave of absence? No? Okay. Declarations of interest, I have two. They're impartiality interest from Councillor John and Councillor Ames, who are both it's in respect to item 16.1. Okay, thank you. I'll put that through there. For the members of the public, an impartiality interest is a declaration. However, councillors can still participate in decision making on that item. I don't believe we have any presentations tonight or deputations. That's correct, Mr. CEO? Correct, yes, okay. We now come to item 6, which is statements by members of the public. I would ask if anyone in the public gallery would like to make a statement. No? Okay, we have no emailed statements sent through either. This then brings us to item 7, which is questions from members of the public. Again, I'll ask if the member of the public would like to ask a question. No? Okay. We do have 3 questions that have been sent through by Ms Renee McLennan, who indicated that she would be attending the meeting in person, however is not present in the chamber. So the first question on behalf of the town of on behalf of the Bassendean Tree Canopy Advocates, I would like to commend the town of Bassendean on its leadership in adopting its tree retention and provision policy LPP 13 in 2024. This policy is a significant step forward in recognising the value of urban tree canopy with its definition of regulated trees and the requirement for development approval for their removal. Since the policy came into effect, can the town please provide feedback on how many applications have been received for the removal of regulated trees and how many of these requests have been approved? What criteria are planning officers using to assess and determine these applications? So the response provided is that the town has received a total of 15 applications, of which 12 have been approved. The criteria, would you prefer, Mr. CEO, for the officer to answer this, or?
No, that's fine, Madam Mayor. I think just continue with the process.
Okay. So the criteria which the assessment is given due regard is outlined within 8 1C of the Local Planning Policy number 13, Tree Retention and Provision, examples of reasons the town has approved the removal of a regulated tree include the tree is in poor health and poses a risk to nearby structures, the tree is an unsuitable species that provides little or no canopy cover, for example palm trees, or the species is a weed specimen species and presents an environmental concern. The tree obstructs infill development and cannot be retained without compromising its integrity. In such cases where multiple trees are present on a site, the town has sought to retain the largest and most appropriate species. Where the decision is to approve removal, this has been supported by either a suitably qualified external arborist or the town's arborist. Where a recommendation has been made by an external arborist, the recommendation has been reviewed and supported by the town's arborist. Question 2. How is the town communicating the requirement for planning approval prior to the removal of regulated trees to key stakeholders, including the local community, real estate agents, the development industry, and tree lopping companies? Okay, response. When adopted, the policy was shared via our communication channels. The town also has shared the policy with key industry stakeholders, including developers it regularly engages with, local arborists and industry bodies such as Arbor West. Internally, demolition and building permits are reviewed for the presence of regulated trees, and applicants are notified where approval is required prior to removal. Information on regulated trees is also included in the town's orders and requisitions responses, which are provided to settlement agents and new landowners. The town has recently updated its website to ensure the policy is clearly accessible on the following pages: Trees and Verges, Town of Bassendean, Tree Canopy, that's also on the Town of Bassendean site. The town will continue to review the website for other opportunities to ensure the policy is clearly accessible. Question 3. Have there been any known breaches of the policy or challenges to its implementation to date? And if so, how has the town responded? How can the community best assist in ensuring the success of this policy and help prevent breaches, particularly in situations where a regulated tree appears to be at risk of being removed? The response to that is yes. Since the policy's adoption, there has been 7 known instances where works commenced without the required development approval for tree damaging activities. Most breaches occurred shortly after the policy was introduced. Since then, there has been improved awareness and compliance, with most applicants now seeking approval before works begin. In each instance, the town intervened by conducting site inspections or contacting the property owner to cease works immediately. All cases resulted in works stopping and a development application being submitted. While effective, this can be a challenging and sometimes confrontational task for staff. The community can assist by reporting suspected removal of regulated trees. The town will confirm whether approval is required and obtained. Where compliance action is needed, photos or witness statements from the public are helpful. Community members are also encouraged to raise awareness of the policy and advocate for broader legislative reforms at the state level. The town acknowledges and appreciates the community's strong support and advocacy to date. Thank you. And that concludes question time. There are no petitions for presentation tonight. We now move on to item 9.1, and this is confirmation of the minutes. So we have the ordinary council meeting 22nd of April 2025. That the minutes of the following meetings, we've got 2 meetings there actually. We've got the special council meeting for the 20th of May 2025. I can move for both of those at the same time? Okay. Could I have a mover for accepting the minutes of both those meetings? Councillor John, seconder. Myself. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Item 10 is business deferred from a previous meeting. There is nil. We now come to item 11.1, external committee reports and updates. So there are 3 external meetings: Walga East Metropolitan Zone, PAMG Annual General Meeting, PAMG Special General Meeting. Councillors, I have an officer's recommendation that council notes the updates and documents from external committees that have been received within the reporting period. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wilding. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ames. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Councillors, this now brings us to item 12.1, which is items en bloc. Now, councillors, I have coming out of en bloc 12.2, which is number 70 Kenny Street, and 12.10, monthly financial report, April 2025. Councillors, do I have anything else coming out of en bloc? Okay, so can I have a mover for the remaining items in en bloc, which is 12.3, 12.4, 12.5, 12.6, 12.9 and 12.11. Can I have a mover? Councillor Ames, seconded Councillor Burke. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried.
Councillor Ames
And Councillor Burke.
Thank you so much.
So, councillors, this will take us to the first report, which is 12.2. So, I'm not sure if, Mr. CEO, if you would like to have this, because some of the councillors weren't here last week.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a good briefing session, but there was some briefing session notes made by the Manager of Planning and Regulation. And as a result, there were some slight changes. So I might just get Alex to reintroduce the report for those, to bring them up to date where we are at the current state. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. From the administration's perspective, we haven't made any changes to our recommendation to council, but we do note, based on discussions last week, we provided wording for 2 conditions that council may wish to impose. One would be replacement of condition 5, which relates to the rain garden as it stands, and that would be essentially upgraded to requiring a more detailed landscaping plan, which would deal with trees and the rain garden on site and potential screening for vegetative screening. And then a revised dot point 9 or condition 9, which related to the schedule of materials. That was presented as part of the existing application, for that to be a revised schedule of colours and materials to be submitted to the town and subsequently approved before a building permit is being issued. We've liaised with the landowner and the designer on that, and they were comfortable to accept those as conditions. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. And I must apologise to our planning manager because I did not actually see those amendments last week, and I do apologise for that. I must be colourblind. Okay, so councillors, are there any questions? And I will foreshadow that I wish to move the amendment that relates to dot point 5, the rain garden amendment, which I can read out shortly. There was another amendment, but first of all, I'll ask councillors if you would like to ask any further questions. Okay, I'll also ask councillors, there was a second amendment composed by our planning manager, which related to the materials. I believe this resulted from questions from Councillor Burke last week. Oh, sorry. Sorry, this...
Through you, Madam Mayor, they were in response to questions from Councillor Ames in relation to if there had been discussions between the adjoining landowners and the finish of the ancillary dwelling.
Okay. So, councillors, before we proceed, just so we're clear on what those amendments might be, I'll read out the first one, It's an amendment to condition 5, which is it's a dot point in there, but it is condition 5. Prior to applying for a building permit, a detailed landscape plan being prepared, submitted and approved to the satisfaction of the town of Bassendean. The landscape plan should include the following details. 1, details of the location and species of proposed trees, shrubs, ground cover and lawn areas to be planted. 2, details of the location and proposed species, trees, shrubs, ground cover provided within a dedicated rain garden of no less than 2% of the roof cover to be provided on site. 3, details of the proposed watering system to ensure the establishment of species and their survival during the hot, dry summer months. The landscaping plan and irrigation of the development site shall be installed in accordance with the approved landscape plan and thereafter maintained to the satisfaction of the town. If I could just ask, is that to your satisfaction? It is. The one question I have is at the end there is. Actually, no, a landscaping plan is what it is. It's not in perpetuity. That's the tree that's in the near the reversing bay, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, in terms of the tree requirements and compliance with local planning policy number 13 for the one medium tree, that's actually being provided in the front setback area.
Yep.
And that meets the deep soil area requirements of local planning policy number 13. The additional tree that they're proposing at the rear of the block, that detail in terms of species,
Yep.
the associated, and which will determine the trunk growth and the like, will be determined and developed as part of this landscaping plan.
Okay. So, councillors, that is one amendment. Ms. Sen, would you be able to read out the other amendment? I haven't got it open on my device.
Again, through you, Madam Mayor, in relation to the external finish of the ancillary dwelling, so dot point 9 may be modified to as follows. Prior to the submission of an application for a building permit, a revised schedule of colours and materials must be submitted to and approved by the town of Bassendean. External colours, finishes and materials of the buildings are to be in accordance with the approved schedule, unless otherwise approved in writing by the town. Prior to the occupation of the development, the buildings must be finished and thereafter maintained in accordance with the schedule provided and approved by the town.
Thank you. If you don't mind, Mr. CEO, if we could ask a question relating to governance. Given that there are 2 proposed amendments there, would you prefer that we move one amendment at a time to incorporate, or we incorporate? Okay, thank you. Okay, councillors, I would like to move the officer's recommendation with those 2 amendments, and I would seek a seconder. Councillor Burke. Do I have anyone against? Councillor Carter. So we'll enter into debate. Okay. Councillors, as you know, this particular development application has been before council previously. The report is very clear in that the officers have engaged with the proponent extensively. This matter has been referred back to council for consideration by SAT, and there have been modifications made to the application. As outlined in the officer's report, many of these modifications now substantially meet the requirements, the planning requirements as set down by the state government. There are some anomalies, as discussed last week. There are 3 walls that are on the boundary. Generally, it's only 2. However, when you read the report, it is clear that one of those boundary structures does not actually interfere with the neighbouring property, and is in fact, its neighbouring property has not made any comment about that at all. So, councillors, I think that this is a proposal where if it was refused, I do not believe that it would be refused at the state level. However, there's always that possibility. If it is appeal to, if this is refused and appealed to SAT, then the staff cannot defend this because they have already been involved in writing the reports. So ultimately, councillors, it's up to us to decide whether we're going to approve this or reject it, but there will naturally be some probable repercussions in that the applicant may well find it open to take it to SAT again. So, councillors, I will now throw to Councillor Burke, who seconded this, to speak to it.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So similar to that, I also echo it's likely that it would get approved by the state. There is an opportunity for the town to put some conditions in the application, and my understanding is if it went to state, those conditions would potentially be revoked.
Can I just clarify that with the officer?
In terms of the conditions of the amended, well, the applicant has accepted those or has advised they've accepted those. So if it was approved, I would suggest that they wouldn't challenge those conditions.
Sorry,
So
I
no,
interrupted.
that's okay. No, appreciate it. Okay, in that case, I'll just stick to the first point. So thank you.
Councillor Carter, if you would like to end the debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think we should approve this, and I think that the consideration that it might go to SAT isn't one that we should be actually considering. It should be the whole of the development. Now, I know that an enormous amount of work's been staffed, and I congratulate them. They have done an incredible amount of negotiation over this to get it to a much better state. Nevertheless, let's face it, this is a heritage precinct. And what's the point of having a heritage precinct if we have things that are deemed not to comply? It is important that we have that principle always to the fore. We have so few of them. I know that the quirky house would probably look great on my street, which has quite a few interesting buildings, but I don't live in Kenny Street and I don't live in a heritage area. And I think we've only just introduced this. This is in our planning thing, and at the very first hurdle, we fall over. It is not compliant. It is deemed to comply, which means it's not compliant. There are quite a few problems with it. This has been highlighted. I know it has been somewhat addressed, but not entirely addressed. I think it's an out of place in a heritage precinct, and if we don't stand up for the heritage of Bassendean, this is something that we are required to do without any sort of understanding or any sort of threat. I don't know what's the word to use, that SAT would overturn it. We cannot determine what SAT would do. SAT understands heritage precincts, and I think we should stick to what we have. I recommend we don't approve this for that very reason. It is inappropriate in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any other councillors to debate for? Councillors debating against? I'll close. I actually acknowledge the sentiments expressed by Councillor Carter, and on the balance of things, I probably do agree with many of the statements that she's made. However, there has been a lot of work done on this particular application to bring it more into line with what might be acceptable in that area, particularly in the front-facing aspects of the building in respect to the change of materials being used to make sure that it blends more with the streetscape. There are aspects to this planning which shows that there has been a significant amount of work done, as acknowledged by Councillor Carter. So I still believe that this is an application that, despite the fact that there are some anomalies, can fit into that streetscape, not perfectly, but better than what was originally proposed. Would we prefer to have a heritage-looking building there? Probably yes. Is this a reason to knock back the application? That remains to be seen on this vote, doesn't it? Thank you, councillors. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in for, please raise your hands. We have Councillor Wilding, Councillor Burke, Councillor Polifka, Councillor John, Councillor Ames and myself, and Councillor Jenny Carter against. Thank you, one and all. Okay, we now go to item 12.7.
Sorry, I'm a bit slow, sorry to interrupt. Is that approved then?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So item 12.7, policy reviews, and Mr CEO, any comment on this one?
No, nothing further to add, thank you.
Okay, councillors, any questions on this one? Can I have a mover? Councillor Ames, a seconder?
Two parts.
Councillor Wilding, yep. And anyone against? Okay. Okay, I'll put that to the vote when I find the right page. Apologies. Okay, so we have two parts to this. The first part, officer recommendation, is that council revoke the notice of motion policy, 2, revoke the festive season office administration closure policy, and 3, revoke the councillor's contact with developers policy. Can I have a mover for that one? Councillor Ames, seconder. Councillor Burke, do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Okay, we go to the next part, which is that council endorses the reviewed attendance at events policy. Do I have a mover for that item? Councillor Ames, the seconder. Councillor Burke, do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Okay. So 12.8, which is the supply and installation of an automated irrigation system for Jubilee Reserve. Again, this was dealt with last week in the briefing. Mr. CEO, are there any additional comments on this one?
Nothing further, thanks.
Okay.
Just very quickly, we just need to close because of the confidential attachment. So we just go in and go out.
Okay, even if there's no questions.
Even if there's no questions, I'm very sorry. We have to just move to go behind closed doors to ensure that the confidential attachment remains confidential in the attachments in the minute book, and then we'll just then we'll come out. I know it's a administrative burden, Mayor, but we do have to undertake it.
Okay, can I have a mover to go behind closed? Councillor Wilding, seconded Councillor Ames. Do I have anyone against?
and
verbalise the...
could you please verbalise the recommendation, the resolution, please, Mayor Hamilton?
So the council resolution, council resolves for item 12.8 that Council 1 amends the adopted budget for project AP 2509 Jubilee Reserve Reticulation Upgrade to increase the budget by the 24-25 proposed budget increase identified in attachment 2. 2. Authorises the use of funds in the Jubilee Reserve for project AP 2509 Jubilee Reserve Reticulation Upgrade as specified in confidential attachment 2. 3. Authorises the use of municipal funds for project AP 2509 Jubilee Reserve Reticulation Upgrade as specified in confidential attachment 2. 4. Appoints the tenderer recommended by the Tender Evaluation Panel as stated in the confidential RFT 03/2025 Tender Evaluation Report to supply and install an automated irrigation system at Jubilee Reserve, Eden Hill, for the town of Bassendean as specified in Tender 03/2025 for a contract period of 6 months to commence upon council award of the tender and issue of the letter of award. Thank you. Okay, so councillors will now move to item 12.10, which is the monthly financial report in April 2025. And I requested for this to be pulled out of en bloc simply because it was not available last week and I just wanted the officer to speak to the variations. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Yes, thanks, councillors. So, as per normal, the monthly financial report comes direct to the council meeting. So, I would like to take this opportunity just to highlight 4 proposed budget amendments for councillors. I think councillors have received information on all of these previously via bulletins and project updates. So hopefully none of it comes as a particular shock. But the first one is a budget amendment to accommodate the completion of the design for the library customer service co-location and integration project. As you can see there, under number 1 on page 61 of the agenda. The second budget amendment is for completion of the Hamilton Street retaining wall works. Now, these 2 things have occurred. As I've mentioned before, I think we did provide some advanced information to councillors. So there was an additional budget there just required to complete those works for the retaining wall. I think in these 2 cases, we're proposing to source the funds in the first instance from the Future Projects Reserve, which was the source of funds for the first part of the budget, and in the Hamilton Street wall case from the Land and Buildings Infrastructure Reserve. Again, that was a source of funds for the original budget, and any sort of proceeds from disposal will go back into, potentially go back into that reserve or a reserve. Then there's 2 road projects. First is for Walter Road East. Essentially the project cost has been significantly increased due to largely additional traffic management costs associated with night works and penalty rates. So it's 2/3 grant funded, so there is a municipal component, a municipal increase required for this particular project of 32,753. So it's going to come from this year's municipal funds, which will just reduce the projected closing position at the end of the year, and the rest is grant funded. And lastly, Success Hill Reserve, the low-cost urban road safety program. Again, similar reasons, but this one's fully grant funded, so there's no impact on the town's municipal funds or reserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr White. Councillors, any questions on this item? Okay, councillors, can I have a mover for this item? Councillor Wilding, a seconder? Councillor Polifka? Is there anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Okay, there's 2 parts to that. What? It's just an officer recommendation.
Should be two.
Oh, okay. Okay, councillors, if we can revisit that one, sorry. So officer recommendation 1, actually, the council approves the following budget amendments, which are the number 1 is the library and customer service integration project. Number 2 is the Hamilton Street retaining wall project. Number 3 is the Walter Road eastbound lanes project. Number 4 is the Success Hill Reserve project. So councillors, if I can just have a mover for those items, Councillor Wilding, seconded Councillor Ames. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare those carried. Councillors, the second part of this is that Council 1 receives the monthly financial report for the period ending 30th of April 2025, which incorporates the statement of financial activity for the period to April 2025, and 2, notes the explanation of material variances in the statement of financial activity for April 2025. So, councillors, can I have a mover for that item? Councillor Ames, a seconder. Councillor Burke. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Okay. Thank you for patience there, councillors and staff. Okay, this now brings us, if I can just check if everything's fine for the governance team.
Yeah.
Okay, so item 13, there are no motions of which previous notice has been given. There are no announcements of notices of motion for the next meeting. There's no urgent business in item 15. This brings us to confidential business. So, councillors, if you don't mind, we've got 16.1 and 16.2, which is the Bassendean Oval Precinct Redevelopment Project and the EMRC Amendment Deed. Can I have a mover to go behind closed doors? Councillor Wilding, seconded Councillor John. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. And councillors, thank you. when we're back online, live streaming. And, right, okay, so let's read these out. So I'll need that back up on the screen so I can read it out. Or do I read that out? So just reading out the resolutions of council, 16.1, council voted unanimously in favour of the amended amended officer's recommendation. Okay, and 16.2. That council unanimously Point 1, execute the amended deed as provided in the confidential attachment to this report. And 2, endorse the following council members as the 3 voting members to the Eastern Metropolitan Regional Council, EMRC, post 30th of June 2025. Councillor Talon Ames, current EMRC council member, Councillor Paul Polifka, current EMRC council member, and Councillor Catherine Hamilton, current EMRC council deputy member. And that was unanimously accepted. Okay. This brings us to the closure of the meeting at 7:16 p.m. The next ordinary council meeting will be held on Tuesday, the 24th of June 2025, commencing at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff, and thank you, councillors, for your indulgence and patience.